BlackRock Insider says they are not preparing to file a spot XRP ETF anytime soon. We're going to take a look at that information. But first, Bill Morgan posted this. It looks like Ripple got another win other than the SEC and Ripple victory. It says, but alas, scams. Ripple had another win with the SEC immediately ordering an exemption from the bad actor disqualification arising from the permanent injunction. Now, I know this sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo to you, but I'm going to explain it into really understand context, and we're going to get into this. I also have a ton of other Ripple and XRP information in this video, guys. We're going to have a hell of a time. Let's get into this. So here is the document, United States before the Securities and Exchange Commission. You can see that the date is August 8th. Now, instead of reading all of this, I just threw it into Perplexity and I said, like, what is this about? What happened here? And here is the background. The SEC filed a lawsuit against Ripple Labs in December 2020, alleging violations of securities laws, specifically Section 5 of the Securities Act of 1993. The court ruling was August 7, 2024. The court issued a final judgment permanently banning Ripple from violating Section 5. This judgment included an injunction, especially a court order restricting specific future activities by Ripple. The appeals and settlement, both Ripple and the SEC appealed this final judgment, but later settled. As a part of the settlement, Ripple requested the court dissolve the injunction, but the court denied it. So the injunction technically remains in effect. Why does this matter? Bad actor disqualification under the SEC rules. Here's the rule 506D. If a company like Ripple is subject to a court injunction for breaking securities laws, it's labeled as a bad actor. This could hurt Ripple's chance of getting a banking license or getting some type of spot XRP ETF approved. Anything could hold in the balance here. This label disqualifies Ripple from using Regulation D exemptions, often used to raise capital privately, such as with accredited investors, without full SEC registration that can severely restrict Ripple's business activities in the United States. Enter the SEC's immediate decision as of August 8, 2025. Despite the permanent injunction still in place, the SEC immediately granted Ripple an exemption from bad actor disqualification. This means that the SEC judged that given the facts and the prior court's likely willingness to dissolve the injunction had parties requested earlier, Ripple showed good cause for exemption. In short, Ripple can still access securities exemptions like Regulation D as if it weren't subject to the bad actor label. Why is this a win for Ripple and XRP? Ripple is not being blocked from major financial activities, often hindered by the bad actor status. This removes a huge regulatory roadblock for Ripple's future fundraising and partnership opportunities here in the United States. By extension, it's seen as a positive for XRP's broader adoption and legitimacy, since Ripple is the main company building on the XRP ecosystem. So just to summarize this all for you, Ripple faced a permanent injunction from the SEC, which usually triggers a damaging disqualification, which is bad actor status for securities exemption. The SEC immediately waived this disqualification, allowing Ripple to continue normal business activities. And this is interpreted as another win for Ripple and indirectly for XRP, as it keeps the door open for future growth, partnerships, and market confidence. So that was a huge thing I don't see many people talking about. So I'm glad we got to address that and talk about it here. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below. Obviously I'm not an attorney of any kind, but I'll do my best to see what I can do to answer those. Okay. And then of course, Stuart Outright says, following the commission's vote today, the SEC and Ripple formally filed with the Second Circuit to dismiss their appeals. The end. And now back to business. All right. So here is that information about BlackRock. So Nate Garassi owns an ETF store and actually has connections at BlackRock. He says, BlackRock immediately calls me out, says no plans at this time to launch a spot XRP or SOL ETF. In my opinion, this will be looked back as a mistake. We shall see. And so here is the thing that he was talking about. BlackRock, which currently lists and trades Bitcoin ETFs and Ethereum ETFs, said it does not have plans for an XRP ETF or a SOL ETF at this time. BlackRock does not have any plans to file an XRP or SOL ETF, a BlackRock spokesperson told the block on Friday. Now, we've all seen in the past where institutions will say one thing and then the next day they will do something else. They have the right to do those types of things, but they are giving some guidance right now saying as right now, they do not have the demand at BlackRock to do this. The reason BlackRock got into Bitcoin and then Ethereum was because their customers were asking for it. That's why I ask you on this channel, if you should have a BlackRock account or you're at one of these institutions, sending an email or calling your broker to telling them that you want these products can go a long way. You have the power, you have the voice. Now let's use it to better, push forward XRP in general. And so I did want to get some information of why BlackRock did Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs. I'm going to actually leave a link to all of this data in the description if you want to get into this yourself. I just don't want to go through all of this, but I know some people will find this helpful. That's why I'll include it below. Now, Moon Lambo says BlackRock announced it currently has no plans to launch a spot XRP ETF. They have ceded territory in regard to this gigantic opportunity, and their competitors must be thrilled. BlackRock will one day regret this and likely course correct as XRP increasingly because a dominant force in the crypto space. I think there's a little misspelling there. All right, no worries. They'll arrive, but they will be late to the party. And then Digital Asset and Digital Perspectives, Brad Keim says they're bluffing. So obviously there's people in the space that believe BlackRock is just kind of saying this for show, and they're really maybe behind the scenes planning to do this. Now they could change their mind at any moment and go down this route. I do believe eventually we will see it, but it is going to require their customers to stand up and ask for these things. And I hope my content allows you to have a voice and have power. And I know most people probably don't even think about this, but sometimes you put the idea out there, people will say, hey, I can send an email. I will call my broker. Or next time I'm talking to my broker, I will ask about these products. And I believe me, that'll go a long way. And I really appreciate it if you could do that. All right. Now, John E. Deaton, the attorney for the XRP community and other crypto advocates, of course, he says what this means: Ripple can continue to raise money in their private markets. One might even argue it's business as usual, and it's the lawsuit against Ripple and the $125 million fine never happened. Now, remember this, I should have had this post earlier here. I do apologize. I was going to actually talk about this in the middle of the video, but I thought that this was so important that I moved it to the front, and ADHD gets me all the time. I forget to do stuff. All good though. All right, here we go. This is from X Finance Bull. If you want to follow X Finance Bull, there's the guy's information. He said Deloitte just confirmed it. XRP is driving Europe's payment revolution. You have SEPA, the single euro payments area, and then you have TIPS, real-time settlement. Ripple's already in the system. This adoption is not a theory. Understand all of this at xfinancebull.com. Yeah, drop your website. All good though here. Stay ahead before the crowd wakes up. Just so you know, I don't know what this is. So, please click or do anything at your own peril, at your own risk. All right. I am not saying to do this. I don't have no idea what this is. I was just reading through the thing. All right. So instead of trying to read all this really small print that I'm sure will come up on your side as terrible, I threw this into Perplexity. Of course I did, right? And I wanted to just get any additional context that's maybe missing from this to help us better understand what is happening here. So there is a shift happening. There's growing demand for instant payments as consumers expect money transfers to be as fast as sending a text, reflecting digitization and rising expectations for speed. PSD2 regulations, the EU revised payment services directive, also known as SD2, is enabling open banking, allowing fintechs like Ripple to deliver real-time payments across Europe. The 24/7 availability, the market accepts payments to the available around the clock, which pushes the adoption of mobile wallets and instant transfer solutions. Ripple's technological change. Deloitte's mentioned the report places Ripple alongside of Bitcoin as a transformative technology, driving digitization in European markets, a sign of mainstream recognition. Near real-time settlement, Ripple's XRP ledger and payment solutions are considered efficient alternatives to traditional payment rails like SWIFT, allowing near instant fund movement between banks and institutions. Of course, we know about the lower cost. Ripple's tech can significantly cut cross-border payment and wire transfer costs, especially for corporates and financial institutions. Regulatory backing, the TIP system, European Central Bank, ECB, and the ECB TIPS, which is the target instant payment system, is referenced as a pan-European network supporting instant euro settlements between banks in real time. I've shown a lot of connections with Ripple's partners that are interconnected into the TIPS ecosystem. You can use Ripple's technology and XRP inside of it, and I imagine as well. Interoperability, Ripple solutions could complement systems like TIPS, by improving access, efficiency, and interoperability for institutions moving large sums and needing global reach. Remember, the FX market is about $7.5 trillion a day. That is about 7.5 million payments per day of around $1 million on average. If you decided to use something like XRP for those payments, not only would you save billions of dollars per year, but you would also get rid of some of this nostro vostro kind of stale money in bank accounts all over the world, as well as you could actually put that money to good use inside of the bank and inside of the town, neighborhood, or whatever country that bank is in. So for instance, if a bank has money tied up all over the world for, all these nostro vostro accounts, if they could get that money back, think about the home loans, personal loans, business loans, student loans, all these types of services that they could, start to gin up and offer. This could help GDP growth in whatever country that was able to grow that in. And of course, people would be a lot happier and they would have more access to money. One of the biggest problems around the world is businesses don't have enough access to capital, and this could definitely help solve those issues. Also, card and cash alternatives with the EU's push for full digital payments. Blockchain-based platforms such as Ripple are seen increasingly viable for both retail and wholesale financial flows. So this does solve, not just institutional problems, but this solves retail problems as well. Why this matters: Ripple and XRP's credibility being identified in Deloitte report alongside of the ECB systems further boosts Ripple's institutional credibility and adoption potential for XRP in Europe. The impact on adoption, regulatory support. We talked about the D2 and tips, and of course the growth in the ecosystem. Now, there's a little bit more information I wanted to just show you really quickly. Ripple did just tweet this report out today, August 8th. This will come out tomorrow on the 9th on Saturday. Tokenization isn't a trend. It's reshaping global finance. Here's how real world assets are moving on chain with secure institutional grade custody across regions. It's talking about treasuries and money market funds in the EU and the USA. It talks about agricultural receivables, expanding rural access in Latin America, trade finance, and structured lending in Southeast Asia. And it does talk about real estate tokenization with Control Alt and Land Department on the XRP ledger. Now, here is their entire breakdown and report. I'm going to include this in the description so you don't have to go and float around the internet to find it. I will also include some of the research here from Perplexity of why this is important. Of course, we talk about the instant settlement, secure storage and management, 1 million wallets deep, FX market coverage, right? We talked about that just a few minutes ago with the FX coverage of 90%, talking about all these different currencies, real estate, tokenization pilots, major projects with Colombia, land ownership, Hong Kong, property, back-end lending. Remember, this is HELOCs, get an instant HELOC. And Dubai title deeds leverages Ripple custody to facilitate secure, scalable, and programmable asset markets on the blockchain. The reason why this is really important, these are kind of like proving grounds, testing grounds for the rest of the world. If Ripple can prove in Colombia, in Dubai, and in Hong Kong that all of this technology works, then they can mass scale it and mass produce it for the world. Now, look at what's interesting here is you don't see Ripple kind of repeating what they're doing, right? They're doing real estate tokenization pilots with Colombia, right? Land ownership. In Hong Kong, they're doing lending, right? Back-end lending. And then in Dubai, it's title deeds. So they're attacking the whole real estate market here with these 3 different examples. And remember, all of this stuff is going to kind of come as one package, right? Ripple will be able to offer this to customers, and their banks and institutions will be able to offer that to all of their clients. I'd imagine it'll start with the high-end clients first, the private wealth clients first, because that's usually who gets the newest products. And then it'll be filtered to the rest of the, the population and the banks. And so that is going to be a very unique technology because they can show in 3 different countries that all of these things work together, and they can supercharge the next age of the real estate market, which is incredible. Really, really fun. Remember, the real estate market is anywhere from like 300 trillion to 350 trillion. As value, as inflation happens, the value of these properties globally goes up. And so I'd imagine over the next 5 to 10 years, we might see the global real estate market anywhere from 400 to 500 trillion. So it's a lot of money that we're talking about that can be tokenized and traded on blockchains. Also, stablecoin access and on and off ramps enables easy fiat integration and cross-border payment remittances and asset management. You also talk about bank partnerships. Examples include BBVA, leveraging Ripple's custody for seamless integration and digital asset, traditional assets. There's so much here, guys. This is such a great time to be an XRP. I hope you're enjoying the information. If you guys are, please hit like, please share. And if you really want to take your crypto knowledge to the next level in this bull market, if you want to take advantage of other things outside of XRP, Cryptodares has been truly on fire. It's my community. It's on Discord. We post a lot of valuable information in that community. I hope to see you around. There's also a course on XRP that's absolutely free. If you want it, it's in the description. Have a fantastic weekend and have a good week next week. Aloha.
I have just built a course for beginners, intermediaries, and experts of XRP to better understand the XRP ledger and Ripple, the company. If you're interested in getting that course absolutely free, there's a link down in the description. Please let me know what you think after you've taken the course. Aloha.